Imamu Amiri Baraka, A Brief Hagiography. In 1968, Everett Leroy Jones began referring to himself as Amiri Baraka, which translates to Blessed Prince. By this time, he was already an Obie Award-winning playwright, noted Greenwich Village beat poet, and a principal figure of the Harlem Black Arts movement. In 1966, Baraka helped form a community arts group called the Spirit House Movers and Players. The Spirit House itself was located at 33 Sterling Street in North Central Ward. Not long afterward, he became affiliated with Los Angeles-based scholar Ron Everett, known then as Maulana Karenga, who arrived unannounced one day at the Spirit House. The name Maulana Karenga translates to master in a pious sense and keeper of tradition. Anecdotally, Dr. Martin Luther King would show up at the Spirit House in a similar fashion in late March 1968, just days before his tragic assassination. Swahili, an East African lingua franca, which shares many words with Arabic, had been among Dr. Karenga's college studies. Baraka's relationship with Karenga's us as opposed to them organization, an African traditionalist Kawaida theory from which Kwanzaa's and Nguvu Saba is based, may have influenced him to bestow Swahili names on members of his own group, CFUN, the Committee for a Unified Newark. Baraka accepted an invitation to teach at San Francisco State College during the spring semester in 1967. While there, he lived in the residence of Eldridge Cleaver, Ed Bullins, and Marvin X, known then as the Black House. It was during this period that he became acquainted with Oakland's Black Panther Party. Eventually, a schism developed between the Marxist political mindset of the BPP and the Afrocentric African traditionalist views shared by the US organization and the Black House. Ironically, in the mid-1950s, Baraka had been dishonorably discharged while a sergeant in the U.S. Air Force for his alleged communist leanings. However, in the late 1960s, far leftist political views were seen to be in direct conflict with Afrocentrism. Amiri blamed white-led so-called radical groups for fanning the flames during the 1967 Newark Rebellion, in which he was badly beaten and nearly given a 3-year sentence for allegedly firing a weapon at the police. The rift between us and the BPP was eventually seized upon and exacerbated by the FBI's COINTELPRO. As evidenced later during the 1975 Church Committee hearings and in the FBI memo dated November 29, 1968, to the point of bloodshed, including the January 17, 1969 UCLA deaths of Black Panthers John Huggins and Mayor of the Ghetto, Alprentice Bunchy Carter. Newark, where Baraka was referred to as Imamu, which is Swahili for spiritual leader, was decidedly Afrocentric with regard to community organization. The Black Panther Party and Trotskyism were not major factors there. In the Spirit House, where police had at times confiscated theatric scripts and threatened to lock up poets for reading their work, 3 organizations combined. The Spirit House joined forces with the Kempo Self-Defense Group, Black Community Defense and Development, and then the United Brothers and Sisters. Karenga suggested that the amalgamated organization be named a Committee for a Unified Newark. This group unsuccessfully backed several Essex County political candidates in 1968 and then went on to strongly support Kenneth Gibson, who would be elected as Newark's first black mayor in 1970. Baraka moved his organizational headquarters to the House of Unity on the corner of High Street and Springfield Avenue. In 1970, Baraka published the book It's Nation Time, and I Was Born in Newark to Black nationalist parents. Afrocentrism was Black Newark's zeitgeist, and slave names were considered anachronistic. Likewise, it followed that I was given a Swahili name, Mtaalamu Weusi, which translates to Black Scholar. The year following my birth, my parents joined CFUN, citing my mother's smile. Imamu personally dubbed her Tamu, the Swahili word for sweet. My first recognizable steps were taken in Amiri Baraka's home, and yet in a lifetime of sundry interactions, I never felt an acknowledgement of our connection. We shared a table at an educational event, and I explained to the students his significance to me, but he and I were unfamiliar. Other CFUN children, such as Nyota David and Malkia King, were close friends of mine who grew up continuously interacting with him, but I had not. I once brought a young woman to his South 10th Street home for a school interview assignment, but neither of them were aware of the deeper relationship that he and I shared. Later, I participated in a couple of community poetry readings at his house, but then so had hundreds of people over the years. His son Raz and I have been reacquainted since my 20s and friendly, if not friends. Baraka's daughter, Dominique DePrima, assisted the illustrious Stevie Wonder when he was gracious enough to interview me on May 15, 2008. The topic of Baraka, of course, came up during the interview. However, when I would find myself near Imamu, I never mustered the strength to discuss the accompanying proverbial elephant whom only I was cognizant. Once I exhibited at the Harlem Book Fair and watched Imamu walk down 126th Street in statesman-like mode, pumping arms, signing autographs, and posing for pictures, and not just with fans, even the other festival features seemed in awe. I stood aside watching the Grand Marshal Sands Parade. Rather than ask for a picture, I typed a note into my phone that read 12 books of poetry, 10 works of nonfiction, 3 pieces of fiction, and 7 books of plays. It will come to serve as my on-demand reminder of what a solid literary legacy looked like. On April 28, 2012, a group of Newark schools, city government, and organizations hosted an offshoot of the Harlem Book Fair at Rutgers University with Baraka as a guest of honor. I was in Newark that day to perform with Angela Coyotes at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center, so I stopped by the fair beforehand and paid homage to Baraka from the stage. I mentioned our connection, recited poetry, and then closed by pulling out my cell phone and sharing the aforementioned list of his accomplishments, and Amiri Baraka was visibly moved. In retrospect, my hesitance to reach out to him was emotionally costly. I regret not being more assertive in our interactions, especially when I stood to learn so much. One particularly memorable lament can be traced to a night at the 2012 Geraldine R. Dodge Poetry Festival, the largest poetry festival in North America. And Baraka Saleh, a respected theater producer and namesake of Baraka's, had invited me to curate an event called Sacred Circle Cafe, which among other amazing poets included Raz Baraka. While walking to the event, my mother and I encountered Imamu resting at a table. He sat looking at us with large eyes and an even larger smile. Still, I did no more than wave and speak a reverent "Hello, sir." While barely breaking a stride, part of me believed he was smiling to be cordial and had no idea who we were. It never dawned on me that, for one, he might have recalled the smile of the woman he had once termed sweet. On May 1st, 2013, Poetry Magazine published Baraka's scathing critique of Callaloo editor Charles Henry Rowe's Angels of Ascent, a Norton anthology of contemporary African-American poetry. Baraka noted, "It is obvious as well, looking through this book, that it has been little touched by the last 20 years of African-American life, since it shows little evidence of the appearance of spoken word and rap." He goes on to mention a few contemporary poets who are missing, and among them, he mentioned Raz and me. I could no longer conveniently convince myself that Imamu had no idea who I was. Now, I believe there was finally enough context for us to speak. Yet, by the time the critique came to my attention, Imamu was already hospitalized, and I was never to see him again. Imamu Amiri Baraka transcended on January 9th, 2014. 4 months later, his legacy would expand. His son Raz was elected Newark's 40th mayor. I'll end this with a quote from Carlos Castaneda. "There is but one simple thing wrong with you. You think you have more time."